thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. Getting into a brief overview of what we'd like to present. Firstly, the challenge. How can students promote and invest in socially responsible businesses? We believe that the best way to solve this challenge is with the solution of creating a student-run impact fund focusing on small-cap public equities. When implemented correctly, this will lead to a social impact equivalent to 9.3% return on investment. Taking a quick look at why this is the right place and time to do this. Firstly, on the global financial index, Singapore is ranked as the third largest financial hub in the world. What this means is, just minutes away from NTU's campus, you have a wealth of knowledge and infrastructure for finance, trading, and investments. This provides prime mentorship, internship, as well as actuarial help for these students. Secondly, NTU is currently ranked number 1 in the QS Global Rankings for universities established in the past 50 years. What this tells us is that students at NTU are receiving a high level of education. They're motivated and they are leaders in their community and are going to be agents of active change. Third, there's strong student support for promoting sustainability and socially responsible businesses throughout the world. What we have here is a place, Singapore, that is perfectly designed to have a fund focusing on sustainability. You have educated, motivated, and actively seized students looking to make a difference in their community, and that is why we believe this fund will be successful. Taking a look at some comparable funds of other universities, first, the Haas School of Business at California, Berkeley. Investing for financial performance and environmental sustainable governance, this is funded through alumni and industry and focuses in the universe of public equities. Secondly, the Dwight Hall SRI Institute at Yale University focuses more so on advocacy and SRI techniques funded through Yale's endowment and focused on the universe of public equities, debt, and real estate. The third comparable we will look at is the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. This is an early stage and focused on financial and social returns, funded through competitions and primarily concerned with private equity and venture capital. What you see here is a common thread amongst all three of these, and what we would like to see in a prospective investment fund at NBS. All three of these, by virtue of being student groups and being about leadership, advocacy, and having an impact on your community, are able to promote and focus on sustainability above profit. This gives them a unique advantage over financial institutions who have the reason and have the mandate of maximizing profit while trying to fit sustainability in afterwards. Circling back to the problem, how can students promote and invest in socially responsible businesses? We recommend the creation of the Nanyang Business School Sustainable Investment Fund.
In order to determine how to successfully enact this recommendation, we took a top-down analysis, starting with what would we invest in, how would we invest in it, and the structure and operations necessary in order to successfully implement this strategy. Beginning, we took a look at investment vehicles that would best suit student funds looking to engage in impact investing. We concluded that public equities would be the most suitable for this purpose for 3 reasons. The first being information. Public equities have a robust amount of information available, both financially and increasing amount of environmental, social, and governance information. This will grant our student managers confidence that they're making informed and responsible investment decisions. The second is risk management. This comes in a couple of competing levers. The first being liquidity. Compared to something like a private equity fund, if a certain investment falls out of favor, they're able to exit the fund and cut off some downside risk. The second being diversification, in which they're able to minimize systematic risk. And third, and equally important, is readiness. Public equities provides a ready solution that is available to deploy in a short time frame in roughly 1 year, the equal tenure of an MFT program. Now we recognize that this offers a feasible and sustainable vehicle for investment. However, we recognize that not all public equities will be necessarily optimal. We believe that small cap provide strategic alignment with our goals. Again, 2 reasons. The first being impact. Small caps require smaller capital in order to exercise greater influence. This would come in the form of price signaling, voting, management to board interaction. The second is the increased amount of flexibility inherent in the nature of smaller companies. So we see small cap funds offering strategic alignment with our goal. Now we recognize that impact investing differs across markets. And we've identified the Asia Pacific as the optimal market to address. This is for a few reasons. The first is a large addressable market. We see a high amount of inequality. We see huge growth in terms of carbon emissions. And we see a lot that's, we see a great market that sustainable fund would be able to address. The second is we see growth in terms of responsible investing. This would allow us to engage in joint shareholder activism in order to engage in impact investing. Taking these three factors together, we've identified a universe of roughly 1,200 small cap stocks as represented by the MSCI Asia Small Cap Index.
Now, taking a look at the actual investment process and how to actually invest, the first thing we wanted to look at is how to actually create a criteria on what the fund would invest in. The first would be impact. What impact do we have? Secondly, we wanted to look at diversity, equality, environment. This is a social, sustainable aspect that we had. And thirdly, financial feasibility. When you take that and you look at how our actual investment approach would be, first, screening. As Graham mentioned, we look at the MSCI index of Asia Pacific small cap. We take our criteria and use that to measure which stocks we would want to go ahead with. Secondly, we create an elevator pitch. There's no point of deep diving into a company when you don't know what your peers want. It's a student fund. Everyone has to commit to a specific company. Therefore, you go in and you create a brief detail on what it's about, and if they like it, you proceed forward to a pitch book. Now, what is a pitch book? It would entail actually a deeper dive into all the materials of the company, as well as a discounted cash flow model or a dividend discount model. Now, with that being said, there will still be questions after that process, and the students will address them, and there will be feedback and voting whether to proceed with the stock at all. If that does succeed, the board will, the last step would be the board, where the board would have to give approval whether or not this would go ahead. And then the manager, as the student, could execute the trade through Arbitrum or through an asset manager. Now, how does this actually look? Well, we have to fill a box on every level for the investment to go ahead. It has to hit all our investment criteria. And if that does do that, we can label it as a buy. But if we hold something in the fund that actually starts to deteriorate from our balanced scorecard approach, such as financial feasibility, then we realize that we have to start looking at the divestiture approach. And when we do that, this could relate into a sell. Now, taking a step back, we showed you where we're going to invest and how we're going to invest. But what are the logistics actually to the fund? How does the club work? Where does it work? What is the vision? And to say that, our mission is to actually enhance students' learning, specifically in finance and investment banking, and focus on sustainability. Our mission, though, is to create our vision is to create a self-sustainable fund. There's no reason why that can't happen. Provide capital to social businesses that need it, but also create a relationship between alumni, industry professionals throughout Singapore with the students, create a relationship, a bond, a community. Now, looking at the club structure, well, it's a student-run impact fund that focuses on matching more than 100,000 Singaporean dollars on behalf of the endowment. What does that actually mean and where does the money go? Well, it focuses on promoting sustainability. Who will be in there? The students have to be undergraduate students with at least 2 years in their degree. Why do we want to do this? Well, there's 3 reasons. To provide students the ability to learn what are finance, what is finance? What does it truly mean to be an investment banker? They don't know these kinds of things. Secondly, promote growth in sustainable areas such as Asia. As my colleague mentioned, Asia is a region that is growing at a rapid pace, at a 22% CAGR over the last 11 years. It is a perfect place to promote a sustainable student fund. And lastly, it creates a strong networks that I've spoken to. Bringing this all together, we have created a student impact fund that will invest on behalf of the endowment. So how does the organization actually look? Well, it has a mentorship program to it. The managers are going to mentor the analysts. Every manager is matched up with an analyst. You teach them how to invest, you teach them how to go through an elevator pitch, you teach them how to do a discounted cash flow model, and you teach them how to do a pitch book so that they know what they're getting into. They understand what they like and don't like, and it creates a wealth of knowledge for them in the industry. The faculty advisor and the board of directors will just overview the operations. So when the manager steps out after graduating the 2-year program, the analyst now becomes the manager. The manager is responsible to create a new group of analysts to come in and support them in the mentorship role, creating a self-sustaining group.
Now, the board has 3 roles in this program. They're going to create the investment policy statement, they're going to create sustainable goals for the fund, and they'll evaluate how the fund is doing through quarterly updates and annual board meetings. Now, on the board, we have 7 members. These 7 members are comprised of the 4 MFE students that came to you in the first place wanting to create this fund because they're passionate about it. They only have a 1-year MFE program, and this lets them be active in this organization before or after the program is done. They also have varying backgrounds and skill sets. We also suggest that you, Professor Charlie, are the faculty advisor for the class since you've shown such a keen interest, and you would also have a seat on the board. We have 2 empty spots on the board because we are missing legal expertise and we're missing expertise in the endowment fund industry. So to fill these, we have Mr. Sarjeet Singh and Mrs. Lee Sweat Fern. So Mr. Sarjeet Singh is the president of the NBS Alumni Association. So this means he has a vast network of alumni to connect with to really kickstart this fund. He is also an adjunct professor at the university and has been since 2010. And he's personally set up his own endowment fund at the university, so he knows all the procedures about it as well. Mrs. Louise Wetstern is a current member of the NTU Board of Trustees, meaning she has a very extensive knowledge and vested interest of the endowment fund itself. And she also fills our legal deficit, which is a partner at Wharton. So for funding, like Brian said, we need $100,000 Singaporean dollars to really make this fund work. So we're going to do this through combining endowment funds and private donations. The endowment funds are 0.01% of what the current endowment funds at the university are, and the private donations are just to top that up. So it's really diversified, and the students have enough money in the fund to really make an impact on whatever company they use. There are a few annual events going on for these funding activities. So there will be weekly Monday meetings where then members of the fund will talk with their faculty advisor and really just get a sense of where they're going and how they're doing it. There will also be 2 mandatory divestiture and investment elevator pitches per manager, and this is so that every manager in the fund has an impact on what the fund is investing in. There will also be quarterly rebalancing of the portfolios just to keep it very sustainable. So we have 4 annual events: recruitment, roadshow, annual report dinner, and the annual board meeting at the end of the year. Recruitment, we're going to connect the managers with the junior students that still have 2 years left by doing classroom talks. And then the managers will go into selecting the new analysts that will be coming into the system. So this will be in a 4-part screening, starting with a resume and cover letter, followed by the conduction of an hour-long interview, a multiple choice exam testing current events, and a 10-page written paper on a company from the MSCI, Far East, Japan, Small Cap Index. And this is an extensive vetting process, but it's really to just ensure that the endowment money is being handled by people with the highest care. So the roadshow is where we'll connect the students to the industry professionals at the industry professionals' offices. So this will be through alumni connections that people on our board currently have. And the reason for this is to really secure those internships that are coveted for these students. Next, we have our annual report dinner, where the managers of the fund will get to share what they're doing, what they're investing in with the greater financial community, and show the impact they're making on the community. This will be taking place at the Tower Block in downtown Singapore, and it's made to better the community. So in the board meeting, fund managers will share with board members what they've done over the year. Board members will respond, and the analysts will be able to observe and make plans for the next year.
So we'd be happy to discuss more about the timeline of events in the question and answer period. So what we have here is how we're going to measure success. Fund sustainability, student impact, and social impact. Our metrics is the fund operationally and financially self-sustaining. 80% of our analysts retrieving summer internships, and we have environmental impact total to removing 680 tons of CO2. So, the challenge. How can students best promote and invest in socially responsible businesses? We believe that through the creation of a student-run impact fund focusing on small cap public equities, they can do this and create a social impact equivalent to a 9.3% return on investment. Thank you very much for your time. We're now open for questions.
2, we will now proceed on to the Q&A segment.
Thank you very much for a succinct presentation. Congratulations, team. You did mention that you're talking about investing in public equities, and I don't know if you've kept track of what's happening here in Singapore in the small cap sector. It's fraught with a lot of gyrations. Okay, so I have not heard much, unless you covered it somewhere, about the risks that you see in that kind of a strategy, and how you plan to mitigate the risks, because you have quite a few stakeholders to carry along, right? So can you expand on that and your thoughts?
Sure. Can you go to port diversification, please?
Yes, sorry.
So the way we'd actually handle that is any fund needs a minimum amount of stocks to suffice to any risk that any stock has. So basically, we decided that our fund would carry 20 stocks, and that way it would diversify the risk of any small cap having an issue. The 20 stocks would be the right amount due to the research we have seen. Yeah, and it would basically diversify our risk. If we see if we see a small cap company that is not performing to our investment criteria or is not in line with our investment policy, we will liquidate our position immediately.
Question, thank you for the presentation. I'll start with my first question. You closed with something very interesting, which I hadn't seen anywhere in the presentation except in one bullet in passing, and I'm very curious about your 3-year impact. And two questions specifically on impact. One, you say that one of the qualifiers of the 3-year impact is the equivalent of removing 680 tons of CO2 from the environment, which is fantastic. I just haven't heard anything about it until that particular bullet, so I'd like to understand more. And in your very opening slide, your opening speaker made a comment that the social impact equivalent of 9.3% ROI. So I'd like to understand what the social impact equivalent of 9.3 ROI is and how you're generating that.
What you were looking at was a sustainable impact fund. We're balancing the financial aspect and the sort of social responsibility aspect. So we're looking at, the first thing that we look at doing is what would a financial fund perform, and how could we measure that in terms of the sustainability factor. So we looked at a study which showed that environmental social governance fund overperformed the MSCI World Index by 2.3%. Now we noted that the period that the study was overtaking was 2007 to 2012. There were some irregularities in the great financial crisis of that period. So we took the long-term MSCI return and applied that spread to get it to generate an expected return of 9.3%. Given our initial fund amount and this return, we generate an expected return of $9,300. Based on a carbon price of $10 as presented by the World Index, this could be seen as a reduction in carbon of 680 tons of carbon. And so this will be balanced between both financial and sustainable, and that's where the equivalent return comes in.
Thank you.
That was my question as well. That's well answered.
Yes.
So you assuming, just go back to your slide on your 9.3. So you're assuming that your fund would generate at least 2.38% better than the MSCI World.
Based on the study that we saw, this was the information given. And
So that's just your benchmark, right?
yes.
What if you don't achieve it? What happens?
Sure, that's a good question. So to achieve this,
Sure, I'll step in for that. Can you go to slide 101, please? So the way we achieve this is through 3 methods. We actually look at what is, like the key thing is how do you actually measure impact, right? I'll take you through how we measure it, and then I'll show you how we did it with an actual company. So first we look at impact. So we see the float divided by the shares outstanding. We think that if any insider owns greater than 20%, we can't make an active impact on it, therefore it doesn't fit in our investment criteria. Secondly, ESG metrics. We want to filter for companies aligned with our ESG metrics, which is equality, diversity, and environment. So any of those playing fields, that's where we want to head. And lastly, financials. What we actually seek to emphasize is that we're not a profitability fund. We're far from that. What we want to do is be a self-sustaining fund. So we want to create inflation plus 1% return, which we think is at Singaporean current inflation, it's negative. So it wouldn't be a hard task, I think, to actually achieve that. With that being said, if you can go to slide, or if you can go back to the appendix, please. Can you go to sample investment universe, please?
Yep.
Yeah. So this actually is what we create as our investment universe from Singapore, and this is what we see. And then from that, we'll go to, I can show you an example of what we actually do. Can you go back to the appendix, please?
Yep.
Can you go to SSIC, please? Thank you. So this is a company actually on the index from Singapore. It's called SSIC Environmental Holdings. What it actually does is it's a water facility company and a waste facility company. So immediately we know what it does on the second point. It covers environment. Then we took a look at, as I said, at the flow. What happens? What's the impact? Well, we thought we noticed that it's very fragmented. We'll go there. And lastly, financially, we saw from research consensus that everyone had it at a greater than 17% return, emphasizing that the financials, a simplified financial format would suit us. And we'd go through this process with the 1,200 stocks, narrowing them down time over time to build our initial fund. And I think that's the key, that we're not necessarily focusing on profitability, but we're focused on sustainability, and that's the way we would do it. Inflation plus 1%, we believe is very attainable.
Look, I think it's very aspirational to put in your mission statement at the start and towards the end, the 9.3. What you're saying to the audience in the sense that you can beat the MSCI with a limited capital. My advice is, tone it down, manage the expectation, say we will meet at least MSCI, because you set a high hurdle of 9.3, you got a higher demand and expectation from your stakeholders. Yeah. My last question I have is in regards to your wonderful annual events, recruitment, roadshow, annual report, dinner. You've got to fund 100,000 fully invested. How are you going to fund that?
Can you go to the budget, please? So this is it's very minute budget, but this is our budget, and actually how we'll fund it is if you can go back to your appendices, please. You can also take sponsorship.
So we have the budget for each of the 3 main events. We would love to have a platinum sponsor for $3,500, gold sponsor for just over $2,100, and a silver sponsor for $935. You can go to 71. These are the potential sponsors we would like to approach. We would really like to work with people that have the same goals as we currently have in our goals.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Team 2. This is the end of the second presentation.